Welcome back to Made for More. I am your host, Holly J. Moore. Made for More is all about showing up as the best version of yourself and being just a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. And Aaron, get ready. I'm about to throw it to you.
Okay, all right.
I am here today and every day with my producer, Aaron Bender, who says every time I throw it to him, he absolutely doesn't know what to do.
That's the thing. The level of anxiety that I feel in the seconds before you toss it to me, we're like, okay, do I say hello? Do I say good morning? Do I say, what do I say? I'm just thankful that when I applied for the job, you swiped right.
You know what? You and I are a perfect match for a producer, and I don't know what we call me.
Host, talent?
Host.
Yes.
Let's not go overboard with talent. Host. Yes. We are a perfect match.
Because neither of us has ever used a dating site. And yet we have someone today, a matchmaker, who is all about, I mean, what was it? Like the bio was like 1,300 successful stories.
Yes, but registered over 37,000 single men and women in Southern California who are dating and looking for love.
Cray. And we didn't get to the part where I hate rejection.
Oh, God. Okay, we'll get there. That's right.
Okay, we're going to go right now.
Okay, and here we go.
Yes.
So, Aaron, I've been out of the dating game for a while, a couple decades.
Yes.
You not so much because you just recently got married.
Yeah, recently got married. Didn't really date. I've never been a big dater. Like, oh, okay, let's go to the bar and try to meet somebody. But also,
what's wrong with that?
I'm just saying nothing. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
That is how I met Jeff.
But it's is it? Is it okay?
Well, that's how
now we need to know. Forget about me. Forget about the part where I wasn't on dating sites because I hated the idea of being rejected. Like swipe. No thanks.
Yeah.
I want to hear about the story with Jeff.
Oh, it's really, it's not that great of a story, but, that's not really how we met, but that is how I would say we romantically connected. Okay. We're from the same small, tiny town. Like, I've known him forever. Our parents know each other. And everybody thinks we're high school sweethearts. Oh, no. He waited until I was in law school. He's like, is this person going to do something with their life? Okay, yes, maybe she is. I might date her. But anyway, so we started dating in law school, but we actually kind of connected at a bar in our hometown, at a dive bar.
Would you use a matchmaker?
I don't know.
That's an interesting question.
That is. Yes, I was 22, at the time.
Taylor Swift 22.
So, as a 22-year-old, I don't, you know what? I actually did work for a matchmaker for like a couple weeks during the summer as a summer job. I literally just thought of that this morning. I think the service was called It's Just Lunch. But,
okay.
I don't know. It's been so long, like dating in my 40s. I don't know.
Yeah, the prospect of dating in 2024, I don't know that I could do it. I really don't know that I could do it. And I'm glad I don't have to.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Love you, Abby. Bye.
We are joined today with Julie Ferman, a matchmaker, dating coach, love guru, relationship enabler, which I'm really not sure what that means, but I will certainly ask her. Julie, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy we're in the same general area in California.
Yes.
And you help people figure out how to go about dissolving a relationship, a marriage, and I go about helping people try to create one. So it's hilarious, and I'm glad we get a chance to chat today.
Yes, we are definitely on the opposite ends of the process. Well, speaking of being in Southern California, it's my understanding you have helped something like 37,000 men and women, single, looking for love. You have helped them find love, right?
Well, I know about 1,300 success story couples. Those are the couples that I know have waltzed off into the sunset, the ones that I'm aware of.
Yes.
I know we've had some divorces, but I don't know of any murders. No murders that I know about. So
okay.
We're really proud of that stat.
Yes, I did not know that was a metric we are tracking, but I am here for it. This is good. We look for any wins that we can, any victories we can claim. I'm here for it. So that's good.
It's wild. So my husband sold me my dating service membership many, many, many years ago. He owned an agency in
Okay.
St. Louis and also in Kansas City. He was from California. You might be too young to remember the name of the company. Do you remember a company called Great Expectations? It was a
I
video dating
don't.
service.
Okay. Wow. Like it was
Yeah.
on the cutting edge because I mean,
Back in 1990, it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
Wow.
So I was a single girl and I was struggling through dating. All we had back then was the personal ads and
Yes.
our own flirting and engagement process and walking up
Yes.
to people and planning parties. So I walked into this agency, and the guy who talked me into joining and maxed out both of my credit cards, $1,450. Yeah, that guy. I flirted with him later, weeks
Okay.
later, when I realized his database was kind of sorely lacking.
Oh no.
And so yeah, so I flirted with him, and 5 weeks later we got engaged, and 5 months later we got married, and 2 months later we
Wow.
got pregnant, and I didn't think that was going to be able to happen, so it was a miracle. And I worked for him. I gave up my hotel career with Ritz-Carlton to work with my husband at his dating agencies. And then later we sold those companies, moved to California, where he was from. And then I launched my own company in 2002, right there in Westlake Village. And
Okay.
it was built much, much differently than any other agency ever had been. And it's still very much evolving. It's a really unique way that I go about doing matchmaking. So that 37,000 number that you saw,
Yes.
it's over 39,000 now. That's the number of people
Oh.
that I've privately registered on my website since 2002.
Wow.
And it's free and it's private to be registered. You don't get to browse. That's
Okay.
the bad news. But the good news is you won't be browsed either.
Oh, okay. Aaron, this would have worked
I
for
know.
Aaron.
I know.
In segment one, we talked about what, I've been out of the game for a very long time. I've been married for over 20 years. But Aaron, he just was married 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now. So I was asking him, like, we talked about whether or not he used the online dating thing. And he talked about how he cannot handle it because he couldn't handle the rejection of not being swiped right or left or however that works. So your service would have been perfect for somebody like Aaron.
Well, it's an interesting thing, the rejection piece, we women, we like to say and we like to think that we want everything to be equal and even and fair.
Mhm.
Well, there's
We
nothing
don't.
fair about dating at all. Nothing.
Oh,
It's not fair. And one of the
yeah.
things that we can't handle, especially as women, Erin might have a level of sensitivity to rejection that may be more than the average dude.
He's in
I don't
touch with his feminine side.
Well, maybe that's what it is. But I'll tell you one thing I've learned the hard way for sure. We girls, we can't handle rejection.
Oh,
We
I know
can't.
that. Yeah. I don't have to be dating
So,
to know that about
ooh,
myself.
so and it's really complex right now because here's how it basically works. When I've got an introduction I want to make, I'm going to go to the guy first, and
Okay.
I'm going to make sure he's available, and I'm going to make sure that his photos are accurate and current and loaded properly. And I make sure
Yeah.
his profile's all done. And then I get to go with him with the idea. It just happened this morning. I had an idea for an introduction for a gentleman I just did a consultation with. He's not my matchmaking client. He hasn't paid $10,000, but I do a lot of mitzvah matches. That's free
Oh,
introductions for people. It's the community service division of my company. I don't
okay.
promise I don't promise introductions unless somebody's under contract, and I'm real cautious about who I'll invite into that hot seat. But
Oh,
this guy did a consultation with me. I had two referrals I really liked for him. I sent him both profiles. I just picked up his not so nice email saying
oh,
that those were not the two that he was most interested in. He's interested in someone else. So if
oh.
he says no to her, and one of them is my high level matchmaking client, I really want them to meet.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to her and tease her with his profile. He's not
Right.
impressed. He's not attracted. He doesn't want to meet her. It's
Yeah.
so sad. So first I
Oh,
got to get his yes. Then I get to go to her and say, "Oh my God, Pamela, I have a suitor for
a
you."
suitor. Oh, this is so old
Suitor.
fashioned. I love it. A
Suitor.
suitor. Who
I
doesn't
have
want a
no,
suitor?
I have nothing for her unless I
Oh,
have his yes. He's available. He's
yeah.
interested. He's attracted to her. Loves everything about her.
Yes.
and then I can go to her. And if she
Wow.
says no to her real life suitor, that's not
Mm.
smart. She can say no, perfectly fine. But you know who is in direct competition with the guy who's interested in her? It's the fictitious image that she has in her mind of who the perfect guy is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
there's all the complexity, but if I have a yes
Yes.
from him and I have a yes from her, yay, then I can make an introduction happen. There's an introduction happening tonight,
Okay.
right around the corner from your office.
Oh, oh my gosh. Can we go?
It,
Can we see what
I'll tell you,
happens?
you could go have dinner tonight at Rustico and you could try
Oh,
to guess who it is.
oh
It's one of
my
my favorite restaurants.
gosh.
And I'm really excited about the introduction. It's interesting. He has been married before. He's in the process of divorce.
Okay.
When you have a lot of assets, takes a while, doesn't it?
It takes a very long time. Yes, a very long time. Yeah.
So one of the things that women constantly will say to me is, "Oh, Julie, I don't want to meet anybody who's still, separated, not
Yes.
divorced." Well, I'll say, let's look more deeply at the situation first.
Yes.
Because this guy, they haven't been together for a year and a half. They're
Right.
amicable. They have kids together. Everything's fine. But it's taken a while to divide up the assets because he has
Yes.
to literally sell a couple of companies before it can happen.
Yes.
So would a woman be wise to pass on his invitation? I
No.
don't think so. He's very
No.
relationship oriented. This guy's going to be single for about a half a second.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you say that because I may have gotten in one or two social media fights on this very topic because there are people out there of the mindset that if you are not legally divorced, you're off limits. And what I try to explain to them is like, even the law doesn't recognize the marriage beyond the date of separation. I mean, I've had divorces that have taken 10 years. And if you're really involved in that dynamic, you know there is absolutely no hope for husband and soon to be ex-wife to ever get back together. I mean, that relationship is so long gone. But
Yeah.
some people are of the mindset that until this person is legally divorced, they're off limits. And yeah, I think that's a lot of missed opportunities there if you take
It
that
is.
approach.
It is. I've been doing an awful lot of research into the way the online dating algorithms are designed.
Oh,
It's sinister.
okay. Tell us more.
Sinister. Oh my gosh. Well, they serve up the popular people,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And they serve up the people who are more likely to keep people engaged and continuing to stay on the website,
Okay.
on the matchmaking site.
Yeah.
So those people who are the popular people are usually the ones who don't end up in relationship at all
Oh,
because they're having so much fun and
they're meant for the streets.
there's a bright shiny object right around the corner.
Yes.
And so those are not the people that I see rushing off into relationship. The people who run
Oh,
off into relationship, and I've watched it over 1,300 couples, it's the people who are relationship oriented. They don't
right.
really like being single and doing all the dating thing. They really just are
Yeah.
happiest in a relationship. So for anyone to instantly dismiss somebody just because they don't have that divorced on their
Right.
profile, it's a mistake. I encourage people to, if they have your most important key criteria,
Yeah.
do you want to know what the biggest mistake is we make as women in dating, hands down?
Yes. Yes. Tell us.
It's turning down a real live suitor who's knocking on our door, wants
Mm,
to have a date with us. He's available, he's interested, he's intrigued, he's attracted, he wants to meet us. And we are dismissing him because we're holding out for the guy who's stuck in our mind.
oh,
Oh, well, I only go for 6'2" or taller. Oh, well, if
yeah.
he's not yet officially divorced, forget it. How about somebody who's never been officially married?
Mm,
A
hmm.
lot of those people get instantly dismissed. So what happens is, as people are sitting in Starbucks swiping, swiping,
Yes.
swiping, they're using these filters. And all the people are using the same filters. So what's happening is the same four guys are getting picked all day long. The same four
Yeah.
girls are getting picked all day long. And it is the paradox of choice at play.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
these people are not matching up at all. So the secret is
Wow.
actually quite simple. broaden our interpretation of who might be an acceptable candidate,
Okay.
pay attention, slow down, and know what are your most important criteria.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the number one most important criteria that always ends up on a woman's top 3 list?
Yes. Height. Is it height?
Are you kidding? That never makes it.
Oh,
Unless the
really?
woman's like 5'11".
Okay.
Now, but see, they'll start with it, and then we'll get on a Zoom
Yeah.
consultation together, or we'll get on that 30-minute phone call together, and I'll actually drill down. Well, let's see. Is his being tall more important than him having honesty, integrity,
Right.
character,
Yeah.
trustworthiness? That's the piece
Yeah.
that almost always ends up in the top 3. Like,
Okay.
these are the 3 things you'd rather be single for the rest of your life than
Right.
partner with somebody who didn't have it.
Yeah.
Height? I don't think so.
Yeah.
There was a woman I did a consultation with earlier this month who is 5'11",
Okay.
and she did put height as one of her key criteria.
Yeah.
All right, sweetie, if you're 5'11", I get it.
Yeah.
But usually it's secondary. And then usually the other thing that's really important is shared values,
Yes.
couple of shared passions,
Yes.
the fun factor. Do we have fun together? Can we
Right.
communicate?
Yeah.
Does your elevator go up beyond the 2nd floor in terms of emotional intelligence? How about these things,
Yeah.
right?
Right. So, but let me ask you this, because you've been doing this for a while now, and maybe you will enlighten me and give me hope about the human condition, because I feel like people have gotten more shallow. And so what are you seeing? Because clearly you're talking to people about, okay, what is the criterion that we're using to pick your mate? So what are you seeing in that regard?
It's horrendous, the
Oh,
superficiality that's
yes.
rampant in our culture.
Right.
So I just figure my job is to help people sift and sort and figure out what's most important,
Yeah.
and don't miss our opportunities.
Yes.
Don't miss our opportunities. And
Yes.
I'm curious, in talking with you, what would you say, if you had to boil it down, are the top 3 reasons for divorces? And it might be different for men than it is for women, but I'm curious. I hear that 2/3 of the divorces in this country are initiated by women, not by men.
Yes, that is true. I think that statistic may conceal more than it reveals. Because I think it's not that more women want a divorce than men. I think more women take the proactive step to literally file the papers than men. And I think there's lots of different reasons for that. But in terms of, oh, go ahead.
I'm just curious about, is it money? Is it disloyalty? Is it, I got bored? What
Yeah.
are the common reasons that will cause people to separate and divorce after they didn't mean to? When they went down that aisle,
Right.
They did not expect
Yeah.
that this marriage wouldn't work.
In my opinion, it always comes down to I think everyone has like 4 basic core needs that we all need. And you don't necessarily have to get them all met through your partner. But I think divorce always comes down to one or more of those needs not being met. And if it's not being met through the partner, they haven't figured out another way to have it met. And the needs off the top of my head are like feeling a feeling of being significant or important, feeling a variety of emotions. You want, kind of that emotional availability. You don't want to just be like met all the time. You have to be able to change emotional state. You want to be able to feel loved and cared for. And I think the 4th one is the basic needs are met. You have some sense of security and stability financially, physically, that kind of a thing. So in my experience, like every divorce I've ever seen has come down to one of those things is lacking in one or both parties.
Yep. It seems like one of the things that is really helpful to have in order for couples to stay together is a certain level of growth orientation.
Yes.
Willingness to communicate about the tough stuff,
Yes.
willingness to bend and flex. It's the number one thing I look for in terms of who I want to work with as a coaching client, a boot camp participant, or a matchmaking client.
Okay.
If they're not growth oriented, if they're not
Yes.
looking if they're not willing to look at, gee, in all my relationships that I've ever had, the things that went well, what was my part in that?
Right.
The things that didn't go so well, gee, what was my part in that?
Yep.
If they're not willing to engage with those questions, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to work with them.
Yeah. Yeah. You're very smart. Yeah. We had actually a husband coach on here for one episode, Tommy McAllister, and he talked a lot about that. I mean, in my business and in my personal life, I think I subscribe to the idea of 100% personal responsibility, good or bad. Like it's on me. I had a part in it. If I have an employee that's underperforming, it's ultimately my fault because I either hired the wrong person, I haven't been clear about the role or my expectations or something like that. But the buck stops with me, and I think that definitely applies in interpersonal relationships as well, and certainly marriage, and goes so far. And the husband coach talked a lot about that. So I definitely agree with that. And then as far as the growth mindset, I think, I have a friend right now who is experiencing the issue of like, she's very growth minded and her significant other is not. He's very content to never grow. He just wants comfort and stability and really kind of the opposite of growth. And I think that presents huge challenges in marriages and relationships.
It does. And, I can tell you're growth oriented by nature. So if you and I have done plenty of these growth and development workshops.
Yes.
We're in the middle of a Tony Robbins seminar. It might be a little different with Tony Robbins, but if we're with Alison Armstrong or wherever we are, Catherine Woodward Thomas, Ariel Ford, and we look around the room, who do we see more of, women or men?
I think women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a different type of expectation as to what ways men are supposed to be strong. They grow up with the understanding that their job is to, be the guy who holds down the job, be responsible, whatever. They're not thinking that their goal is to be, a guru or, to sit on the top and meditate. So what I think is happening that's causing us problems in our relationships today is there's an expectation from women that wherever we are, the guy's going to be at the same level or higher.
Right.
There are a couple of different dating coaches right now using the term level, and they're like fighting over who can use the word and who can't. It's hilarious. And the whole idea is, trademark issues are fun, but we like the idea of a guy being at our level or beyond. And yet in this area, personal growth, development, capacity for communication, spirituality, anything, I think it's unreasonable for us to expect that men are going to be at our level or beyond. What I think is healthy is to look for a guy who's got a certain threshold of willingness, okay?
Okay.
So if my elevator goes up to the 12th floor, is he at least on the 4th floor, and so, like, I've been married to Gil Ferman for 34 years. I love him so much. And I am here to tell you, he is the last guy on the planet who's going to say, Julie, you know what? There's an issue we really need to talk about. Can we sit down and talk about it like tonight?
Yeah.
While we're watching the sunset or something? Yeah, right. If you ever that, I fall off my chair.
Right.
But when it's important, and I ask him, honey, you know what? This issue that we're wrestling with, can we sit down and talk about it tonight? I got some ideas and I bet you do too. And I know we can work it out. He'll say yes every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time. Because he doesn't know how to get there to a place of balance and harmony on the topic, but he knows he wants to get there.
Right.
So a lot of it's in how we engage and how we invite the conversation. And how much can we listen instead of talking? And can we let people finish their sentences? Maybe.
Ooh, that's a tough one. That is, I think, particularly for women, that's tough. Yeah.
So the other thing that's really challenging, and I'm curious what you have to say about it, is all the money stuff. Yeah. So bizarre. It's one of my superpowers is helping people come to terms over, how much money do you need and who should cover what? And sometimes we'll literally schedule a
Yeah.
when they're like 3 months into it and she's ready to throw in the towel, or it's
Right. Yes,
three
because that
dates.
is a whole thing nowadays. Yes, I see. Oh my gosh.
Thing.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about that.
Can I tell you how far so many women have their heads up their butt over this issue?
Oh,
Is this a
wow.
type of podcast where we can talk like this? I mean,
Yes, yes, please. Keep it real.
oh man. Okay, so there are all kinds of reasons for why we are messed up as women if we have the expectation that the guy in our life is going to have as much stuff as we do or
Okay.
more.
Okay.
And there's a word that I will not allow a woman to speak to me about, and it's the word cheap. I
Okay.
hate the word. I won't allow it. I
Okay.
won't. Because first we have to talk about love languages, right? In what
Yes.
ways is this guy generous?
Yeah.
In what ways is he not so generous?
Right.
And I've got a perfect platform to speak from on this topic because Mr. Ferman is so tight he squeaks, and he will even tell you. He will tell you.
Okay.
But you know what? We've had a roof over our head
Yeah.
in one form or another, and it's always been a wonderful home for 34 years.
Yeah.
Now, the first home we bought, I was pregnant. We'd been together less than a year. We got engaged, pregnant, married, all that.
Yeah.
Bought a house. We're trying to buy a house all in the first year. And he's looking at the low end, really piece of crap houses in St. Louis where we were living with, the planes flying
Oh
overhead by
gosh.
the airport. I'm like, no, we can't do that, sweetie. No. And he's like, well, that's what's the budget. That's what I
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
And so I started looking $100,000 higher, and all of a sudden I was finding pieces of property I was really excited about. So I went into his office and I said, okay, so I found 3 properties that I really like a lot. And they're
Yeah.
both $100,000 over what our budget is. And he's like, well, you know what I'm going to say? I'm
Mm.
like, well, I got an idea. What if I put down the down payment?
Mm. Okay.
$47,500 was a lot of money for me to fork
Yeah.
out when I was earning $35,000 a year,
Yeah.
slaving my ass away for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
But I wasn't coming from a place of entitlement. Like, well,
Yes.
the guy's supposed to pay for this and that. You know
Right.
what? I got us into that house. I'll pay the down payment and you pay the mortgage forever.
Forever.
And
For
he
the
did.
rest of our
And
lives.
until we sold that house and bought the one we're living in now,
Mm.
wiped out the mortgage. There is no more mortgage.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we're able to be safe today with no debt and things are fine is
Yeah.
because I've always been willing to contribute in areas where it mattered to me, but it
Yeah.
didn't matter so much to him. He doesn't care about fancy hotel rooms.
Right.
Women are always telling me about, well, I like to travel. I like to travel. Do you know what a guy thinks when he sees that on a woman's profile?
What?
The same thing he sees if she has a horse.
Oh. Yeah.
He's going to think,
High
I'm never
maintenance.
going to see her and it's going to be expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, but let's
So,
let's just start at basics though. Because and you can tell me if I am way off base here. But if I was going on a date today, I would want my suitor to pay for that first date. Is that wrong?
no, I love
Okay.
it when I expect it, especially in my world. If I'm orchestrating an introduction, I fully expect that the guy's going to pay for the date.
Okay.
And the secret is the guy should only offer a date that he's
That he's
absolutely
comfortable with.
happy
Yes.
to pay for.
Yes.
And we should be happy to accept his
Yes.
offer. Like if you're doing the thing with online dating and you're texting or whatever, and what I encourage women to do is offer up ideas for first dates, second dates. Oh, I'm easy to please on first dates. I'm happy to do a coffee date,
Yes.
a cafe. We could do dinner. We could do a hike. Anything you want, I'm happy with. If a guy thinks that the only type of date that would work for her is a fancy ass dinner somewhere,
Right.
like the one we're going to have at Rustico tonight at Rustico, They'll probably order a Whopper glass of wine. It's going to be a beautiful meal, but that's the way he likes to dine anyway.
Okay.
A lot of guys don't really want to spend their money that way,
Right.
and it's too much time.
Yes.
So one of the ways we can be entitled as women and come across as being princesses and difficult to please is if our expectations are up here.
Right.
If a guy is dating and he goes on and he dates for a year and he's on a couple of first dates every month, maybe more, and every one of those dates is a dinner date, you know what happens? His financial planner sits him down and says, Jack, you're not making your goals, dude. How come?
Right.
It's all these restaurant expenses, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we should be happy to have casual dates. And then it's off the table. Now, when it comes to travel, oh boy, because ladies like some of us like nice things, okay?
Yes.
And I can tell you, when I was working for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company in sales, my number one client was TWA. We're talking before it was bought by American Airlines. And I had a great special card, and I got first class anytime, and my husband too, and it was awesome. Well, the minute I quit working there and started working for my husband, what do you think happened to all those perks?
They all went away.
Right out the window.
Yeah.
And so do I want to spend the extra money for ambassador class, business class, first class? I really don't.
Yeah.
Would I ask him to? No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I value cash too much.
Right.
It's not worth it. If a woman really wants high-end fancy pants travel, she better be looking at what part of that is she happy to provide. If it matters to her, it doesn't matter to him.
Right.
I tell ladies, save your points. He likes to travel coach. He doesn't want to pay more than he needs to, and travel is really expensive right now. Use your points, sweetie. Because you know the guy who's saying, sure, I'll take you to Hawaii and I'll pay for everything. You know who he's looking for?
Who?
15, 20 years younger.
Oh.
Every time.
Okay.
Every single time.
Wow.
So if we want a guy who's in our league and he's relatively in our age group, great. Bring your dough, ladies.
Yes.
So one of the questions I have for you is the reasons for divorce. How many of them do they still see on the other side?
Oh, all of them, I'm sure. Yeah. Unless they do something in between. I mean, my dad always says, the names change, the issues remain. So unless they do something in between, first marriage and second marriage or next relationship or whatever, the whole pattern is just repeated.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love that you bring that up because it's exactly what needs to happen without taking a good hard look at who we are, what really matters, what doesn't.
Yes.
Where have our problems, where have our issues been in the past, and what part of it was ours, and what are we doing about that?
Right. Yeah.
That's what my boot camp is all about. I finally found out the total solution to everything. I run a 30-day boot camp where we address all of these issues. And if people aren't growth oriented enough to say yes to the boot camp, that's cool. They don't get to be my making client. I won't take them on unless they're willing to grow. Won't do it.
I love that. Okay, I have one final question for you. And we should do a part 2 because my producer's giving me the wrap sign, but I do have a lot more questions. But for our final question for today, what do you think? So if there's like a single person listening to this right now and is looking for love and maybe they felt like, it's been difficult to find, what is the single most important thing they should either be doing themselves or looking for, or like, what is the secret recipe?
Well, it's to get registered with julieferman.com so I can help.
Okay.
Because I give away so much stuff, because I really care about the quality of our relationships on this planet, and I'm not liking the way it's going. Yeah. So whether people ever spend a dime or not is not my focus. I don't care. From free to VIP and everything in between. Anybody who speaks the English language, I don't have this platform set up in French or Spanish or Chinese, maybe down the road. But right now, English speaking people who are sincere about finding a great relationship, and want to do dating well. Doing dating well, like growing through the process of doing dating, as opposed to find the one, right?
Yeah.
Those are my people. So they can listen to my podcast, Cupid's Coach podcast, or they can register at julieferman.com. I recommend that they do that inner work first before they throw themselves up on an online site.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because online dating is really highly unsatisfying and soul sucking for most people. And yet, since so many other people are doing it, we just throw ourselves up there, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous to ourselves emotionally.
Yes. Well, how so? Tell us more a little bit about that.
Well, we think we trust. We think that it's real people on these.
I heard that's I had a friend, like, she does all this weird stuff to actually just confirm that who she's talking to is who she thought she was talking to.
That's right.
Wild.
And people who are unsuspecting, especially older people who aren't up on all the scam things that are happening. Oh yeah. If you're an older lady and all of a sudden you're getting hit on by a younger guy who looks great, and he's a doctor, and he's overseas at the moment. I mean, there's all this stuff to look out for. It can really cause us to become distrusting of other people and distrusting of our own ability to be discerning. So I said, just get educated first. And I hope people get educated. So do you. I really appreciate that.
Yes. Well, this is great. I know the work you do is helpful to so many people, and I'm really excited for our listeners to hear this. And if it's taught me anything, it's that I'm so thankful I am not in the dating game at this point in my life. But if I was, Julie, I would hire you. Yes.
I hold on to Mr. Ferman for dear life. Don't leave me. Yes. And I'm right now, we've been together since he was 44 and I was 29.9 years old. And now I am 64 and he is 78.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
And it still works.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Most things still work.
Yeah.
You could fill in the blank any way that you want. I could have been talking about our coffee pot.
You probably were. You probably were. Yes, I'm sure you were.
Aaron, you're a hoot. He would laugh. We'll have to do round 2, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. It's fun. We'll keep collaborating.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Julie.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon, Holly.
Okay. I've got just a little bit more to say. The choice of who we choose as our mate is so insanely critical to the quality of your life. And I think as a society, we have gotten so far off the mark with the criteria that we're using to choose this mate and the process that we're using to choose this mate. And it is resulting in a lot of wrong choices, if I might say. I loved what Julie said about having a growth mindset. Growth is where it's at. You've got to choose someone who wants to grow with you, wants to grow in the same way that you do. And if you need help making that choice, call Julie. And as always, never forget, you were made for more.